solutions or alternatives to, as you say, having lower area floors designed for flooding. One of the challenges around that must be around the longevity of that solution. So what might be a non-habitable room for the current owner, the next owner sees it as the granny flat or the kid's bedroom, and you go, there's a potential to go backwards if we can't, for want of a better word, quarantine that area as a non-habitable area. Did you see anywhere in your travels that was successful in keeping or maintaining that low-risk environment from owner to owner? Because we could be talking, with the frequency of flooding we're getting, 50 years, 60 years, how do we sort of stop people going backwards in 4 owners' time and things like that? I think there's a real challenge there. It's the same challenge we face with house raising. Allowing people to raise a house, creating a cavity underneath, and then the next owner sees that as a spot for 2 bedrooms and a garage.
That's the difference between Rockhampton and Brisbane, I think. Because in Rocky, because it floods so frequently there, you typically don't see too many people building in underneath.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. It'll be the place for a boat or for whatever. Yeah. I think the issue is with datums. So even if you do raise a home, how do you know it's not going to flood? I mean, maximum possible flood line could be 5, 6, 7 metres higher than 2008. So I don't know. Like, I think it's kind of really obvious if something's built to flood, like these things. If it's plasterboard, then the perception is different, I think. And whereas if it's like face block or it's rendered or the reality is in Brisbane, my ultimate thought is a belief in retreat over a longer period of time. So the things that I'm doing, I see them as temporary solutions to keep property values at a particular point that could become part of a greater idea about retreat. We don't want to just go retreat because things will just go chaos, I think. I don't know. But if we had a plan of, say, 30 or 50 years, personally I think these flood events are going to happen much more frequently than that. But that's, who knows, right? However, within 2 to 3 weeks of the 2011 floods, people were putting plasterboard back on their walls in Britain, and they still have 30% moisture content in the timbers. So I understand your point about future homeowners, but actually I think they'd be better protected in the stuff I'm doing than not. Yeah. And they're probably going to build them underneath their homes. Like, in 15 years, everyone's going to forget and go, yeah, let's just do it again. And the local authority is powerless, basically, unless they've got an army of inspectors out there who are going to go knocking on, and what are they actually going to do? Like, are they going to fine everyone? Because it's practically, if you look at Fairfield, for instance, or you go to any of these particular areas, so why not? It's like the whole legalisation debate, actually legalise it and control it, then make it illegal, and then it just gets done anyway. I don't know, it's a good point about that non-habitable, habitable thing. And after the floods in Brisbane, I was asked to get involved with an insurance council thing in Sydney, the Attorney General, and whatever, at a federal level, and the building codes people all came in, and they were dead against this kind of stuff, but it made lots of sense to me when I looked at who was actually on the board of the Building Codes Association of Australia. The head of the Plasterboard Association. And then I actually had a lot of organisations contacted me after I'd done the flood report to try and get me to accept that their plasterboard was floodable. And I was just like, it was just crazy. And they're the people who put pressure on, etc., etc. So I think if you know a flood's coming or there's a lot of rain, you don't sleep on the lower ground, on the lower level. And if it's going to flood out, then you may as well be able to get the fire hydrant in there and just kind of flush it all out. And 4 days later, it's dried out and back you go again.
The true definition of resilience.
In a way, yeah. Well, that's the whole point, is to lower the stress levels on people.
I just want to ask a quick follow-on question. In the rooms those areas you've developed, and I suppose it's are they sound like they're just as resilient then, whether you've got a bed down there, okay, so you lose a bed, that's $600 or something like that. But the actual structure, the walls and all that, are still quite resilient. You're still able to wash it out, whether you've used it as a granny flat or whether it was supposed to be using it as actual use as a rumpus room. It's still quite easy to clean out.
Absolutely, right. Shouldn't need insurance.
Yeah,
really,
especially with the electric.
Yeah, everything. Well, yeah, we looked into that. Obviously, like the main power board is up, but all the electric get turned off anyway in a situation like that. So the idea would be that if you get it's above a nominal data line, because you can never really get truly above a flood line anyways. But in terms of the actual electrical outlets themselves, we just assumed that you just rip, like the wires themselves don't get affected. So you just rip the plastic off, chuck it out, reattach the new one for $15. Like it's
only the outlets.
It's just the outlets, yeah. They'll be full of mud. Remove, don't try and wash them out or anything like that. So yeah, because everything's kind of in the cavity, so yeah.
Like one quick question, I think, because then we can have some more drinks and whatever.
James, what's been the long it's supposed to be
4 times in 1 year.
people that come through the homes and they just wash out afterwards, and the main business area was blocked and tile carpets and dismantled benches and all the rest of it. People were quite used to just coming in the main town area, moving out, putting it on a truck and then moving it back. But I guess one of the things that struck me here in 2013, visiting Gympie, was, I don't know why, but people in Gympie seem to be able to predict the height of the floods within 30 centimetres as they come through.
Yeah.
And even better generally. And there was a very small factor. You knew if your shop was going under, you emptied it. If it wasn't, maybe if you're out a little bit, you might have done it out of precaution, but others didn't do it. What struck me in Brisbane in 2013 is I think our predictions were out about 1.5 metres of what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So I think the systems you're developing sound really logical, but you've got to back it up with being able to tell people realistically. Right. So you're not like your friend that had to dismantle the house when the water would be within 3 metres of their
The
house.
issue in Brisbane is it seems that no one's tracking the movement of soil around the city. So you've got Rocklea, where they've moved like millions of cubic metres of soil into those industrial areas, which basically helps to back up the river. So places like Jindalee didn't flood in 1974, but did flood this time, even though the flood was lower, like in terms of its height. So in Gympie, less of that will be happening, although I know in Gympie they are developing quite a lot of land around it, right? So you might end up starting to see a lot more damage because they're not tracking it. They're not actually saying, okay, 50,000 cubic metres of soil has just been moved into here. What's the displacement of that water? And that's what's been going on in Brisbane. So yeah, I can't tell, but my clients don't want me to tell them the line. They don't care if the line's here or if it's actually here. All they care about is to be able to actually clean it out as quickly as possible and move back in. Like it's all about speed and getting back to kind of like the first house I showed, her mum had, basically they just had this horrific 2011 and the stress was just kind of crumbling around them. So if the house is designed in a way that it can, at least they don't have to worry about that so much, then that would be a good thing. Whereas if it's all plasterboard and cavity walls and pine frame and support of that, I just don't see it. It's just a waste. So really, the insurance company should be interested in this, but I don't think they really are because I was involved in all of that. And what was said to me by the guy who's the head policy guy at the Insurance Council was that basically within 2 to 3 years they make the money back anyway and they've got an excuse to raise premiums. and that's the fact of it. Like, so, yeah, anyway.
Peter's got one. Peter's last question, then you can harass another direct.
Just a really quick one. I mean, the issue of building in underneath, because people forget the floods is important. And I think one of the nice things about the schemes that you were showing is that the space below has been so deliberately designed and built that you wouldn't adapt it. And I was just looking at this image over here of Venice, and the little water gates in those houses on the canals are designed specifically for that purpose, and because you can see that it's not looking. So I think that the design that you showed is really very, very impressive.
Yeah, and it's not capital A architecture, you know, like it's not, like it's just responding practically, that's it. It's trying to look kind of nice, but there's only so much you can do with that.
Al, you got one quick question?
I might follow up. I might start the question and continue over drink. So you're having habitable floor levels and whether or not we should define that and have it as a local government defined level that you can't build under versus allowing people to voluntarily take some more risk if they choose to.
Yeah, like I think it's good to have rules, but also it's also good to have the performance-based solution where somebody could come up with an innovative solution and have that assessed, and that could become, and that way the rules are they're not flexible as such, but they are flexible in the sense that if somebody presents a good alternative, the system's rigorous enough to be able to kind of expand its definition of base. Like, there's no way anybody can tell me that plasterboard's going to survive a flood. But I'm pretty sure that most of the stuff I've been doing can. I'm sure everyone can tell you that. And you're taking it.
Yeah, thanks, James. It's all right. It's just shared. Like, I'm sure. Folks, we might pause for some more refreshments. But James, thanks very much for sharing all of this. And to the
one other thing.
Yep.
The guys that I met from who were involved in the Dutch dialogues
Yep.
were really, really, really keen to come here and do a similar thing. Very, very keen. And they said they can get the political kind of will happening with the Netherlands Water Partnership, and so they really would like to do that. And I think your organisation is involved in that dialogue stuff. Lots of them were. And so, I think...
Let's stay in touch on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, folks, big round of applause for James. Thank you.